Seek assurance from God. Hello, 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 my friend. This is Clyde, and I'm inviting you to get direct with God. Actually, we're going to talk about times when you are not sure that it is God speaking or whether something is of God. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has had moments like that, and you scratch your head trying to make sure that you recognize God in that encounter. There was one guy in the Bible who readily comes to mind, Gideon. This brother had some doubts whether it was God calling him into a huge assignment, and you will be impressed with what he did. God had called him to lead the army of Israel against a large joint military enemy. Gideon wanted to make sure, and so he did the fleece test with God. One night, he put out a fleece outside to test if the call up was from God. If in the morning the fleece is wet and the ground is dry, then I will know it is you, God, calling me. The result was exactly what he asked for. The fleece was wet in the morning and the ground around it was dry. But Gideon wanted to be absolutely sure, and so he put God to the test again. This time he asked for the fleece to be dry and the ground to be wet. And that's exactly what he found the next morning. After that, Gideon accepted the assignment, and he went on to miraculously defeat the army of the enemy with an army of 300 men. Judges chapter 6. Satan is always out to mess us up, and he will use any means necessary to confuse a child of God. So we need to get assurance from God. Like Moses, the first time he met God by the burning bush, God told Moses that he has been divinely chosen to go to the Pharaoh and demand that he lets God's people go. Moses didn't seem to have any doubt that it was the Lord. What he struggled with was arguing that he was not the right man for the job. He kept on raising question after question, and finally, when God had got kind of upset with him, he accepted the assignment, and in the end, this man who was so timid to take on the assignment, you need to hear how God eulogized him. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh, and to all his officials, and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of all Israel. Deuteronomy 34:10-12. Then there is Mary, the virgin girl from Nazareth, who was visited by the angel Gabriel and told that she was chosen to be the mother of the Messiah. Mary understood the content of the message, but she had a question. How will this be since I am a virgin? Luke 1 and verse 34. Some folks might argue that Mary was doubtful, but I believe that as a Jewish girl, she had heard the prophetic words that there was going to be a virgin who will give birth to the Son of God. Except now that she was hearing such a message, she wanted to know how it was going to happen since she was really a virgin. The angel was ready with the answer and told her that God had worked out all the details possible, and once that last question was answered, Mary was good to go. Sometimes you and I are faced with something critical, and you're not sure if the signals you're getting are from God or not. Take, for example, a guy is dating a Christian girl, and the matter of marriage comes up. Up until then, he is comfortable dating her, but when it comes to the marriage question, he turns to God for a sign. It comes, but he's still not sure that God has spoken, so he might ask for a much clearer response. Or there is a national election in your country, and you have been hearing good arguments from both sides and support from Christians for either party. In those instances, some folks turn to God and ask for one or two or more signs to be absolutely sure that God is clearly directing them towards one candidate over the other. What do you do when someone gives you a message from God? But you want to make sure that it was from God and not from their imagination. I want to share one last scripture that I think is an effective yardstick to determine whether it is of God or the devil. Dear friends, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. This is how you can recognize the Spirit of God. Every spirit that acknowledges that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. But every spirit that does not acknowledge Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you have heard and is coming and is even now already in the world. 1 John 4, verses 1 to 3. God is saying to us today, test the source to determine if it is God or the devil. Test the message to ensure that it is from God and not the devil. Test the sign to make sure that the sign is from God and not the devil. How do you do so? Pray, my friend. Pray and seek God with all your heart. He says, if you seek me with all your heart, you will find me. Gideon did, and he got his answer and miraculously defeated the enemy. Take my word, when you are in doubt, seek assurance from God.